Tonight on Free Minds TV, a San Francisco police chief wants amnesty for his officers accused of disciplinary actions, as well as a llama in Minnesota who has messed up with authorities and is now on the lam, and nobody likes Congress. No friends at all. We'll bring you the latest, all that and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV. And welcome to Free Minds TV. It is episode 125, and as always, it is Toby here with you.
And Nick.
All right, we have a ton of stories to get to from all across the country, all around the world, and we're going to try our best to relate them back to the principles of freedom and liberty and less government. And as I said, we do have a lot to get to, so I'm going to just go ahead, jump right in. Let's start off in California, San Francisco, to be specific, where Chief George Gascon is asking for amnesty. Yes, he is asking for amnesty for dozens of his police officers. He's asking that disciplinary action not be taken against them for infractions such as swearing at the public, all the way to crimes such as drinking and driving. Yes, while George wants his officers to be let go and not be prosecuted for any of this, not only by the law, but also in the department. Can't be sending any of these people home without a paycheck. Can't lay them off if they're drunk driving. After all, they are police officers and all. Let's let them slide. Well, while George thinks that his officers should be let go if they're breaking the law, it doesn't say anything in this big old article about, say, letting a drug dealer go who hasn't hurt anyone, or a prostitute who was selling her body but still hadn't hurt anyone. We're talking about vice crimes here, officers arresting people who haven't hurt anyone. Meanwhile, the chief of police is asking for amnesty for his officers who in some cases actually have hurt people. And in some cases in this article, it talks about officers who were stalking people and harassing people, as well as drunk driving. So, Nick, what do you think? Should we be giving these officers a pass, saying, look, they're out on the streets every day fighting hard, and so what if they break a few laws? They're locking up people who are possessing marijuana and trying to sell their body for money. These are real criminals out there, Nick. Should we be giving the officers a pass?
I don't think so. I mean, what this boils down to is it's essentially a police chief trying to set cushy rules for people who work on the police force. And to be quite honest, if they did away with these vice crimes or started giving amnesty for them, the police would have a lot less work on their hands. There would probably be layoffs if we didn't have all of these vice crimes. So this guy is not trying to move in the direction of reducing the amount of people who are being processed through the criminal justice system. He's more interested in making the job as comfortable as possible for police officers, whether they're breaking the law or not.
Yes, as Gascon says, they don't get anything from taking a pound of flesh. That's his words we're quoting. Yet he doesn't seem to think that when he's talking about the public. He says that we don't get anything from punishing police officers. How's that work out to, say, punishing someone who's just trying to put a certain substance in their body? And yes, it's probably not a good idea, but should it be a crime?
Well, and even without this amnesty, the fact is police officers in most departments, and there are different police departments all over the country, there's different cultures in them, but overall it's very difficult to actually get a bad police officer fired or get them disciplined in any kind of a significant way if they violate somebody's rights or commit some kind of a crime, even a violent crime. It's very difficult to get a bad police officer off the force. So even without this amnesty, police officers are already being held to a lower standard than, say, a private sector worker. It's very easy to get let go in a private sector job if you're not performing the job correctly or you're doing things that offend your employer.
Yes,
and it's very difficult to get yourself fired, even if you're trying, if you're on a police force or work for any other government bureaucracy. It's not just police.
Right, and I wanted to point out that we don't believe that all police officers are bad. I know that some of them are on the force. I mean, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition shows that there are officers out there that think we should be ending their prohibition against locking people up who have addiction problems and whatnot. But it should be pointed out that giving officers who are drinking and driving amnesty, giving officers who are stalking people amnesty when they're caught for these crimes, it gives all the other officers bad names. So, I mean, by giving these officers amnesty that are breaking the law and letting them go, not even disciplining them in the department, let alone letting them off legally, it is giving all the other police officers who are out there trying to do their jobs a very bad name. So, I say no amnesty for them. Let's actually give some amnesty to the people who haven't hurt anyone. And well, it's just such a sad state of affairs, Nick. But I did want to stick with the police theme here and go over to Minnesota, where some deputies are after a llama. And they've been trying very hard to catch this llama. They've been trying for, well, a couple of weeks now. Starting on August 24th, they had a report that a llama was out on the lam. He was out there, his owner couldn't catch him, and he was out there eating people's gardens and messing up some flower beds and even crossing some streets. And, well, a couple of deputies responded. They had to tase him, not once, but twice. But the llama didn't go down. Not so easy for this llama. They had to shoot him, but he still didn't go down. And he's still loose, in fact. The llama is still on the lam. These poor deputies are very embarrassed by this because they were not able to catch the llama. And what I'd say for them is, what about this? Tranquilizer darts. You're not going to just get the llama with lead. He's not going down that easy. You can't just tase him, even if there's a couple of you. If you got the vet out there and shot him with a tranquilizer dart, maybe he'd go to sleep and you could catch him. But not in this case. He's out there. He's wounded now too, so be careful. This llama could be dangerous. You know they spit if you make them mad, so don't get too close. And yeah, he's loose.
I mean, I have to question why they needed to shoot him in the first place or taser it. I mean, it's a llama. It's not really a threat to anybody. And
they spit. Have you ever been spit at by a llama?
I've seen.
You ever had your garden bed munched upon by a llama, Nick? You don't know what it's like.
I can say that around here, since it's a somewhat rural area, animals do get loose. I know especially down in Swansea, a lot of times you'll hear about a pig getting loose, and usually the police don't shoot it. They just help the farmer catch it, and then the guy takes it back to his property. Yeah, well, it is just a llama after all. I mean, it doesn't have like a plan to do as much damage as possible.
I was wondering, you know, what a vet would do is or someone who's maybe not every vet has a tranquilizer gun, but what about, I watched the Animal Planet, and they're shooting like a bear with a dart, and it falls down and goes right to sleep. Why couldn't police officers have those darts in all their guns, and instead of shooting suspects, you get to just put them to sleep for a little while? What would be wrong with that? Why don't they do that? And this is an honest question. Maybe there's a real reason out there, but why can't, instead of police officers having bullets, we give them tranquilizer darts? So instead of shooting a suspect in the face and blowing it to bits, you just put them down for a little bit and then we can have a fair trial.
Actually, in some cases, it would probably work pretty well. I think the argument's going to be that, you know, if you're firing a tranquilizer dart at somebody who's armed with an actual firearm, the tranquilizer is not going to kick in time. And you usually only have one shot with a tranquilizer gun, so if the guy's trying to shoot you, you do need to be able to drop him before he's going to be able to actually pull the trigger and shoot you. But in a lot of cases, you're dealing with standoff situations. Police are called to a domestic disturbance or someone threatening to kill themselves. Get him in the neck with the
scope.
Well, what they do use those bean bags that they fire from shotguns. So
I think a tranquilizer dart's more effective than a bean bag. I don't know. I've seen them take down bears. Anyways, if you have a thought on it, you could email us, fmtv@freemindstv.com. And if you're in Minnesota, be careful. He's on the loose. Anyways, we do need to move along, Nick, getting into booze and drinking. Last show, we reported that if women are drinking beer, the one good thing it will do is strengthen their bones. So we wanted to bring some good news, but it's always countered by the bad news, Nick. So what's the latest?
Well, I don't know if this is actually bad news about alcohol itself.
But if you're an alcoholic, it's certainly bad news.
It certainly is. And starting this Monday, police councils in England and Wales are going to be able to issue orders or seek to have a court issue an order that would ban people who have been convicted of, or accused, I guess it's convicted of, antisocial behavior while drunk. They can have them banned from pubs and other drinking establishments for up to 2 years, or they would face a £2,500 fine, which would be $3,000 or $4,000 because the pound's it's kind of tanked.
What's antisocial behavior? That mean like getting kicked out of a bar, like you're booted right out?
My guess is antisocial behavior. It's something that's talked about a lot in the United Kingdom, and it's kind of a catch-all term for anything that the government doesn't like.
Like our version of disorderly conduct.
Right. So if you get a drunk and disorderly charge, it's not necessarily that you were drunk driving and you hit somebody and killed them. It could easily be that you got a charge for drunk in public or something related to that. So, I mean, it's bad news for people with a drinking problem, and all you're going to be doing is, instead of fixing that drinking problem, if they're caught going to a bar again, they're just going to be given a rather hefty fine.
It sounds
and they're
pretty.
going to have to try to find some way to pay
It
it.
sounds pretty difficult to enforce. Are you going to be breaking this up and checking in on people to make sure that they're not drinking? Are you just going to be randomly weeding people out? I mean, it seems like a great way to randomly go after people and make sure that, let's say, they want to get you for something. It seems like one of these catch-all things that it's such a vaguely written statement of what disorderly drunken antisocial behavior is. I mean, I don't know.
They're not really getting into specifics about how it will be enforced. Actually, they point out that one of the problems that some people say they have with the plan is that it's ridiculous to think that somebody who owns a bar or who owns a convenience store that sells alcohol, because they're not supposed to be able to buy it there either, it's ridiculous to think that they're going to know which people have received some kind of alcohol-related charge and have had this order issued on them in the last couple of years. And it's really just about revenue generation. It's not going to help somebody with a drinking problem. And in many cases, these antisocial behavior offenses that people are being charged with, they're not actually causing all that much of a problem. They might be drunk in the street or something like that. They're probably not doing the most responsible things, but it doesn't mean that they're beating people up or burning places down while they're drunk. It just means that they have an alcohol-related charge. And this is probably just going to make their alcoholism worse if it has any effect at all.
Or drive it underground. I mean, the other thing this does do, I mean, is it's clearly going after people who aren't burning down houses and stuff, because we already have those laws on the books. This is some kind of other catch-all term, because if you're committing crimes while you're drunk, well, we already have laws for those crimes. So this is something a little bit more insidious and different, but hey, it's for the protection of the people. Right, Nick? Anyways.
Actually, this is one of the few nanny-state laws that we've reported on recently coming out of the UK. That there seems to be quite a bit of pushback if you read the articles about it.
Well, they do like their beer.
They do. I mean, this applies to people age 16 and up, because you can drink at age 16 in the UK.
You have to be 18 to buy a spoon? Yes, for the children. You want us to act orderly in public? No way. Anyways. I support the disorderlies in this one. Let's move right along, as long as they're not hurting anyone else, of course. If they're hurting someone else, we've got laws on the books for that. Let's move right along, Nick. We do have time for the Downsizer Dispatch, but I believe it's a short one because it's about their spiffy website or something.
It's about their website, and this week for the Downsizer Dispatch, we're talking about the fact that it's a new website, and there are a couple of benefits to this. It's supposed to load a little bit faster. It's also going to give them more space, and they're going to be adding some new features to the website, like an introduction pitch, basically, for new people who are new to the website, to tell them what Downsize DC can do for them. And if you're new to this program, Downsize DC is an organization that's focused on making it easy for people to get in touch with their representatives and urge them to reduce the scope and size of the federal government, because Washington is not headed in that direction at all, and there are a lot of people who have problems with that, regardless of what political camp they're in or what ideological camp they're in, or if you're in no party or ideological camp at all. A lot of people are troubled by the fact that the federal government continues to grow and grow. And probably one of the most realistic ways to reverse that trend, at least a little bit, is to go to downsizedc.org and check it out.
All right, and I have to check it out. I haven't checked out the new website, but the old one was pretty good, so I guess they're only moving up in the world. Anyways, yeah, that reminds us, log on to our website. freemindsmedia.org is the address. From there, you can get all the archives of the show, the radio show, the blogs, ways to help the show, and vote for the show. It's a new month, so check all that out at freemindsmedia.org. All right, when we come back, we're going to be talking about what this new administration as well as the new Congress has done. Have they given us our civil liberties back? Is the press really reporting on what's going on in Afghanistan? What do you think? We'll bring you the latest. Stay tuned. This is Free Minds TV. Free Minds TV is brought to you in part by Life Productions for your basic and semi-pro video production needs. From full wedding and event coverage to DVD authoring and distributions, lifeproductions.com. That's lyfproductions.com.
Well, thank you, Spencer.
This is Mark Edge from Free Talk Live, and you're watching Free Minds TV.
And welcome back to Free Minds TV. It is Toby here with you.
And Nick.
All right, Nick, we reported, well, we've been doing this show for, I guess it's 3 years now. Pretty much 3 years. I think it's about 3 years. And we've been reporting on the Bush administration taking away all our civil liberties. And then we reported on Barack Obama, when he was campaigning for office, promising to get those civil liberties back, and we reported that probably wouldn't do so. If it's more presidential power, he'll probably like it. And let's see if we were right or he was right. Well, some of the numbers are in. We've been reporting on some of them. I wanted to tackle this one today. Border searches. U.S. border searches under the Bush administration. Searches of laptops and other electronic media. Well, you used to not be able to search them, but under the Bush administration, laws were changed, and U.S. border patrols, as well as other border patrols, were allowed to search laptops and other electronic information. Well, civil liberties groups pushed back against that, and the Obama administration promised change. And they even are still promising change, even though they rewrote the laws, and the laws are exactly the same. In this article coming from Reuters, the U.S. unveils new rules on border searches of laptops and other electronic media. So I'm thinking, all right, the Obama administration did one of their promises. They came through for us, right? Not so much. The only change of the rule is that still border patrols will be able to search laptops and other electronic data without any probable cause whatsoever. The only change is that border officers should be particularly careful when handling legal or business materials or other sensitive data like medical records or information carried by journalists. They don't have to do anything. They just should be a little bit sensitive. They still search them. They still look through them. No probable cause necessary. They just have to be sensitive or careful. Is that the change people voted for, Nick? Is that the change that people wanted when they said, we want probable cause for searches? We don't want the government to just be able to rifle through our stuff whenever. We want change. And they were told we'd get change. And they even wrote it in the headline of this article here, that there is change. But in actuality, there is no change.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people who are probably in the administration and supporters of the administration who are going to say, well, we did make changes, but they're not significant. I mean, this is the kind of difference you tend to get between Republicans and Democrats, is that the Democrats will still take away your civil liberties, but they'll write in one of these nice-sounding provisions where, border guards should be careful with some of the information. I guess they shouldn't be careful with your own personal files, your own vacation photos and things like that. But if it's got a business purpose or a medical purpose or something like that, they should be a little bit more careful with it. But they don't have to be. And that's really the difference you get between the Republicans and Democrats.
It's words on paper, just like changes words out of a mouth, it means nothing. All this new law is words on paper, and in actuality, we have the same crap that was pushed down our throats by the Bush administration, and Obama's going to pay lip service to change, but he's not actually going to do anything. Well,
he's not going to do anything positive, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like in Afghanistan, where he promised to bring the troops home, he's amping things up, and that's where we want to transition to. Not actually about the troops, because we all know what Obama's doing. He promised to bring them all home, and he's pushing more over there. I think there's over 100,000 Western troops over there. I don't know how many U.S. troops, but it's definitely more than Bush ever had over there. So he's amping things up over there, and we've talked about that extensively, and I'm sure we'll touch on it again. But Nick, you've got something a little bit different having to do with what the press is doing.
I do, and I want to be fair. Obama really never said he was going to bring all the troops home. It's just that everybody seemed to think he was going to, even though he was saying, well, we're going to beat the Taliban in Afghanistan, and somehow they thought that meant that he was going to pull all the troops back to the United States.
Now I'm on it. Next week, I'm finding some kind of a clip where Obama says that he's bringing the troops home. Because I heard him say it. I heard him say it many times that he's bringing the troops home, and now we're going to be over there for the next 50 years or something. I mean...
People seem to be under the impression that we were going to get the troops home a lot faster than we were.
All right, I'm bringing in the clip, Nick, because he said it.
All right, we'll bring it in next week.
All right.
But let's jump into this article here, which is about press freedom in Afghanistan. U.S. military authorities in Afghanistan have canceled a contract with a company that was producing profiles of reporters seeking to be embedded with military units and just reporters in general, covering issues about Afghanistan and the war. The media analysis was being done by the Rendon Group, which was contracted in by the Department of Defense. And basically, the commanding officer in Afghanistan, Rear Admiral Smith, I guess he's not the commanding officer, but Rear Admiral Gregory Smith has said that they're terminating this contract because it was a distraction from the main mission in Afghanistan. They're not saying they're canceling it because it was terrible PR when people started to find out about the program. And the military is officially denying that it was being used to rate coverage by individual journalists about the war. So essentially, what the allegation here is, or the implication, is that journalists who reported negatively about the war seem to set a tone that the United States wasn't doing very well. They're not going to get top spots if they have to be embedded with a military unit, because the military is going to pull out their file that this company was putting together. And they're going to say, well, you don't say very nice things about the US military occupation, so we're going to keep you in a rear area or stick you somewhere where you really can't see too much that's going to be damaging if you actually decide to report on it in a way that we don't like. And actually, Stars and Stripes was one of the media sources leveling this accusation, and that's partly controlled by the Defense Department. I mean, that's, for people in the US military, that's kind of like the US military's paper. And Stars and Stripes said that the profiles had been used as recently as last year to keep reporters whose prior coverage had been negative from traveling with US troops in Afghanistan. So the Defense Department's own newspaper is coming out and saying it, but of course the more highly paid officials giving the official military line are saying, we would never do that. This was just kind of so we could know what the reporters were
So this
about.
is more that change we're talking about, Nick. What the American people said when they said we want the troops brought home, we want to end these senseless wars, what they actually meant is we don't want any real press coverage of them anymore. We want only the yes men that saying everything's going great and our money is being spent to keep us free, keep us safe, right? I think that's what most of the people who wanted change got, what they wanted. Well, that's what they actually meant. Another thing they actually meant was they wanted Congress to go along and do the same old thing they've been doing over and over again, pushing through bigger and bigger government, getting us, spending us into deficits. The latest number on Congress, Nick, I believe you have that. Did people get what they wanted from Congress this time around?
No, they didn't, and the American people never seem to, but they never seem to learn their lesson. And if Americans, when asked by Rasmussen polls, if they could vote to replace the entire Congress and start over again, that means both sides of the aisle, everybody out, 57% said they would make that vote and try to replace the entire Congress. 18% said they're not sure on which way they would vote, so that doesn't leave too many people saying, no, I definitely wouldn't vote to replace the entire Congress. I think you're right, Toby. We reported on this previously, back, I think, during the last days of the Bush administration, and I think it was even more people wanted to do away with Congress entirely. But you have to look at these numbers and say, well, the American people aren't happy with Congress, but it doesn't seem like congressmen get voted out very much. As the article goes on to point out here, when the United States was first founded, for about the first 100 years, every time there was a congressional election or a congressional cycle, incumbents were flushed out half the time.
As they should be.
There was a 50% turnover
Because they
rate.
suck.
Yeah, I mean, and that's true. The American people are mad with what Congress does. Supposedly, you can elect a new representative who will represent you better. But it doesn't work that way anymore. I mean, re-incumbent election rates are over 90%.
Wait, you're telling me 57% of the American public wants Congress completely voted out? Well, we'll do away with them. We'll start over brand new, fresh and new. 57%. Yet 90% of incumbents are reelected. This is why, Nick, week after week, the American people, they're stupid. Very stupid, Nick.
Well,
they're very dumb. The same people that take this poll are going to go and reelect their stupid congressmen. They're dumb, Nick. Face it, they are. Polls like this, we read them time after time. 57 want out, 90% voted in. What are you thinking? You want change? Actually make it. Stop voting for the same old thing. Stop doing the same old thing over and over again. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. You're voting in the same fools, the same Republicans, same Democrats year after year. What do you expect? People generally, Nick, I think, get the governments they deserve. And I'm starting to think the American people are getting the government they deserve because they're doing the same stupid, idiotic stuff over and over again. And I know you're giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I'm done. I'm through with them.
See, a lot of
the people who watch this show, you're cool. But everybody else, you're dumb. I'm sick and tired of it, Nick. How can they do this and go to sleep at night and think, oh, I'm a smart person. Look at me. I go to work and I vote, and I vote for the same person, even though I hate the same person, but I'll vote for him anyways. That's what I do. I'm an American.
I think
that's what's going on. What's going on here, Nick?
Part of the
Is there
problem,
some kind of disconnect?
Part of the problem is
I'm freaking out here, Nick.
Part of the problem is the voting public, but there is also the problem that the voting rules, campaign finance reform, and other things that were supposed to get big money out of the election system, well, they've actually made it very difficult for a grassroots candidate to actually put up any kind of competition. It makes it very easy for incumbents to raise money, get their ads on TV, actually run a campaign, and it makes it extremely difficult for a grassroots challenger to actually be able to raise money and do the other things necessary that they need to do to actually get elected. So the American people can be angry all they want at Congress, but it's not like there are any options being offered besides Republicans and Democrats, who are essentially the same thing. I mean, if you're a third-party candidate running for federal office, you're trying to run for Congress, you might as well forget it. And that's not because the American people necessarily don't like what you have to say more than what the current Congress is doing. It's just you don't have the option of actually raising funds, putting up a viable campaign because of the laws in place. And for whatever reason, people don't want to look like they're voting for a minority viewpoint. So that people are scared of actually voting for a candidate who won't win, as if the point of voting for somebody is to say, yeah, I voted for the guy who won.
I get it. You're being rational. You're being reasonable. But you just proved my point
some people
again.
are dumb, too.
You proved my point
Some
again.
people are dumb.
People want to vote to be on the winning side. Look, if you're voting to be on the winning side, stay home. There's no point in voting. Seriously. If that's what you think you're doing, you're like, I'm going to go vote because I want to vote for the person who wins. Why? What's the point in that? If he's going to win, you don't need to vote for him. God. The American people are stupid, Nick. They're dumb. I'm sorry. Most of them. Not the ones who watch this show. But everybody else, they're dumb.
I don't know if it's dumb so much as a lot of people are they're not informed. They're not well informed, and a lot of them don't care. There's a lot of apathy there too, rather than stupidity. So
well, they care when they see actually what Congress is doing, but not when it comes
Well, I mean, they care
around
enough to
voting
say
time.
they don't like Congress in the poll, but they don't actually care enough to actually express these views or get active or do anything about it.
I got one more article here, Nick. It's about how closed-circuit TV cameras, studies have shown that they don't even help to catch criminals. They're a big waste of money coming out of Britain, but I don't have time for it. I'm too upset. I'm too flustered. Can't get anything done here with the stupid American public. I'm sorry. I'm sure a lot of you think I'm crazy, and sometimes I do as well. So if you think so, you have a different opinion, fmtv@freemindstv.com is the way to get a hold of us. Are you tired of accosting me in grocery stores to tell me your opinion, how you disagree with me? Well, now you can email me. None of those awkward conversations in the supermarket. You can just give your thoughts via email, and we can reply like civilized people. Or if you're living outside the area and you don't shop where I shop, you want to let me know, fmtv@freemindstv.com is the way to get in contact with us. freemindstv.com is the web address where you can find all the archives of the show, the radio version, our crazy blogs, radical blogs. You know, the Founding Fathers are radicals too. All up at freemindsmedia.org or freemindstv.com, however you want to get there. There's many, many addresses. Anyway,
American public, I still like you.
I like
Toby
some of you.
doesn't.
No, it's not that I don't like you. I just think a lot of you are stupid. But of course not the ones who are hearing this because you're watching our show, and I already stated that they're not the stupid ones. It's the other American public, not the ones watching our show. Anyways, it's been Toby and Nick, and have a great night.